I lost one of my neighbors, friends. She was kind of my soulmate, if you want. We went to the same school together. We lived in the same building. We were very, very close as neighbors. And all of a sudden, one day, I wake up, she was slaughtered with all her family.
But I personally believe that physical training or gym, especially when you have gone through such kind of a turbulent emotional state, is basically a numbing agent. It numbs those emotions. But even if you are numbing that emotion now, tomorrow, one small trigger and you are back in that emotional state again.
I went through many well-being certifications, from NLP to emotional fitness to metta coaching to emotional intelligence, you name it. Okay? There's no healing that happens. If one coach comes to you and tells you, I'm going to heal you, this is a big lie.
You gave me a very good perspective today. It's not a book which is sharing the horrible situation. It is a book which shares courage. Hello and welcome everyone. This is Vivek Naik and you are watching Readers Official, a place where authors from around the world speak beyond pages. Before I go ahead and introduce my today's guest, I would want all you viewers to please go and subscribe this channel, because that one action of yours motivates me to create a better community of readers and authors over here. Now with that in place, let me introduce my today's guest. She is the author of 2 books. One is The Temptation of Flesh in Madame Bovary and The Awakening. Second, The Whispers of Silent Woman. She is also a co-author of a book called She Rises. Not just that, she is a certified John Maxwell leadership trainer and speaker. Plus, she is an emotional fitness coach. Plus, she is an international storyteller, a TEDx speaker, founder of Consultancy. And apart from that, she is a social activist working in collaboration with UN and UNICEF. It's my pleasure to welcome author Ms. Sadika Kebbi. Sadika, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Vivek. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's my
I'm
pleasure.
Looking forward to our conversation.
It's my pleasure, Sadika. Sadika, first and foremost, please tell us about your journey from your childhood to becoming an author, and share us some interesting stories about how it was.
Definitely, it all goes back to childhood, actually. It's all started when in one of my mother's morning events. In Lebanon, we have those community gatherings where all the ladies come together in the morning after their husbands leave to work, and where they gossip, basically, about their husbands, their neighbors, their children, their mother-in-laws, all the stuff going on. The minute I started having a voice, and the minute I started kind of participating and sharing in those conversations, I heard my mother say, "You better stay quiet or I will send you to your room." And in order to protect myself at the time, I told myself, better stay quiet because I want to be amongst the adults. I don't want to go to my room. I want to hear all the interesting stuff that is going on. True. So better for me to stay silent. And they speak about the imposter syndrome, and everybody thinks that the imposter syndrome comes from you feeling kind of less skilled or less qualified for wherever you are, and you feel like an imposter. Correct. But actually, when I remember this incident in my childhood, I remember that it was only a story I told myself to keep myself protected. So I told myself, better stay quiet, better stay silent, just to stay amongst the adults. And then when I went to school, the same thing happened again. We had the teacher saying you cannot speak until you raise your hand, you cannot express, you cannot share your opinion, You have to stick by the rules. There's a discipline, or else I'll be sending you to the principal's room. Again, stay silent to protect yourself. And with time, staying silent really helped me to develop my listening skills. Although I was young, I was a child at the time, maybe I can say 8, 9 years old, I was more of a listener than a speaker. And I started listening to the silence of other people, my friends, especially my classmates. And I finally realized that staying silent is a burden in some way or another sometimes. You have something to share and you really feel like you're desperate to share it, but there's no one there listening for you.
True.
They either take you for granted, you're just a child, you don't know what you're saying, your opinion doesn't matter, and they dismiss you. And that feeling really hurts, especially children, because we are mainly, we call childhood the emotional being, or this is where the emotional being starts, if you want, growing. And it's all about the emotions that we feel, and this is where all these emotions, whether they are fears or traumas or whatever, they stick in our subconscious and they stay there. So I had to find a release. I had to find a way. And thanks to one of the teachers that introduced journaling. Journaling was a homework at the beginning.
Okay.
We had to journal about our school days, whatever came to our mind, if we had something to share or whatever, it had to be on that journal. And then by the end of the week, we might be invited to take the stage in the classroom and share whatever we wrote. So this is how my writing journey started, by journaling.
Correct.
So every pain, every emotion I felt,
You wrote it down.
I wrote it down.
Did you share it to someone or just for yourself?
At first, it was just for me. And there was fear of sharing again because of that dismissal as a child. Your opinion doesn't matter. So I was like, better keep it for myself and that little journal I had.
And that's how you inculcated the habit of writing.
Exactly.
Then how it happened? Then what was the journey of unfolding?
Okay, so the journey of unfolding was at a much later stage when I got involved in community service. And I got involved in community service at a very early age. I remember 14 when I started volunteering with the Red Cross in my country. You know, Lebanon, we went through civil war and much trauma. And I had a mentor actually who kind of guided me towards that service spirit. And this showed me, or it revealed, the pain people went through. And most people, I don't want to say only women, even men. And what I see, men, they carry a lot of load on their shoulders because of their upbringing. Especially in the Arab culture, I mean, you're a man. You
cannot
shouldn't
cry.
be showing your emotions. You can't cry. It's kind of a shame, you know, and they start kind of building up and burying their emotions until it reveals itself physically later on. Like they will have a stroke or they would have a heart attack.
They age very fast.
Exactly, because of all these emotional burden that they carry. So I started with community service. I started noticing how much pain there was and how much suffering. And people were scared to share. People preferred to keep this to themselves and not sharing with people. Again, I'll go back to culture here. And I recall also my grandmother, my mother, all the women in the family. If something happens in the family, especially if it's painful, don't share it because people will shame you. People will point fingers at you. They would say, see this woman, she's going through that and that and that because of her father, maybe because of someone in the family. So it was a shame to speak about whatever pain you were going through. And with developing my listening skills and developing all these kind of, if you want, human skills, I'm going to call them, I think people started feeling these. It's kind of an energy or a vibe that you put out there. People started feeling that we have a listener that we can trust.
Correct.
And with time, they started opening up. And I only took those stories, and at first they were here, and they were here, and they affected me on a personal level to an extent where I started having anxiety attacks. I started having fears as well. So I went back to my journal, and I started noting down their stories. Whatever they told me, I wrote it down, and I wrote it as is. I just rewrote their truth, if you want, in some way or another, until I reached a point where I had the courage to ask if I can share their stories.
Okay.
And I was given that right. I mean, they were okay, go ahead and write about it, because we want other women to be, especially women, to be aware of what we are going through, for them not to experience the same or repeat the same pattern that we are repeating, especially our daughters, granddaughters, and so on and so forth. So when I got the green light, I started writing the stories and I started sharing the stories. But of course, there were boundaries, like changing the names.
Yes.
And writing in English and not in Arabic. Also, this was one of the conditions. The women that trusted me with their stories were like, please don't translate that, because our community will know who we are. So keep it in English. A bit the English language would kind of lose the identity, if you want, in some way or another. Yeah. And then as becoming an international storyteller, a keynote speaker internationally, the pain and the suffering is all over the place. It's the same. I started realizing that it's the same story over and over again. It's the story of a human being, the journey of human beings, of pain and suffering and the way we handle it. And of course, upbringing as well. I don't know if you're in your culture, in Mumbai, you were told at some point as a man, you shouldn't cry.
Yeah.
So same story as Arab men. I don't know about Europeans and Americans, but I think it's kind of,
Universal rule, I guess, for men.
yeah, a universal kind of upbringing or a limiting belief, I guess, because when men share, it's courage. I mean, when a leader shares with you their human story, their suffering, their pain, in your mind, you would be saying, oh my God, he's such a courageous guy to share what they went through and to help me understand what I'm going through and to show me the way instead of just preaching, you know. This is how you leave an impact on people, by being vulnerable, by showing who you are, by showing your humanity, or else you lose your identity as a human being.
True. True, I agree with that.
Yeah. So this is how it started.
That's how it started.
From stay silent until speaking my truth.
Sadika, there is one aspect that you mentioned while just speaking, that you got associated with one organization, so an organization that works for social cause, for humanitarian cause. This was at a very early age, correct? Now, tell me, is there a significant impact on child if they are introduced to such kind of an organization at an early age?
Mm-hmm.
How does it help them become at adulthood? What changes it brings in?
Yeah. You know, again, I told you, Vivek, that I come from a country that has suffered for years due to civil war. And I think that community service saved my soul.
True, because you had so much of grief, depression, anger in you. Might be it channelized your all these emotions in the right way.
Yeah. There was a lot of pain watching my people, killing each other. Lebanon, we have 18 sects in Lebanon. Although it's a very small country, but there are 18 sects. And the only thing I knew, well, first few years of my childhood, that there was no other. We were one.
True.
And all of a sudden, with the civil war, there was the enemy. There was this one entity or one sect that was the enemy, all of a sudden it was there in front of me. And actually I went through a very tough experience. I lost one of my neighbors, friends. She was kind of my soulmate, if you want. We went to the same school together, we lived in the same building. We were very, very close as neighbors, and all of a sudden one day I wake up, she was slaughtered with all her family, and there was this pain that I couldn't handle as a child at the time. So one of my mentors, and by the way, he was a priest, he kind of showed me the way to I call it now servant leadership. He showed me the way. This is where all your pain would go, by helping others, by bringing comfort to others. And this is how I joined the Red Cross. And I believe that if we do not help our children find that servant leader within them, they lose a lot of their purpose, the meaning of life. You hear many teenagers, even adults sometimes, they come to me for coaching. I can't find meaning to my life. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know where I'm heading. I have no purpose. I can't see a purpose. Why am I here? Why did God create me? So community service helps you find that purpose and helps you find that alignment with humanity. I truly believe that we are born under the label of human.
True.
Before having any other title, female, male, whatever, you name it. We are human, but we are on a journey of becoming human. This is a label, just a label, and it's up to you to embrace that humanity or not to embrace it, or to find it or not to find it. It's a journey to find that human being. And community service is one essential path for every single human being if they really want to find that humanity, if they want to find that identity of being human. So, yeah, and I always, when I have parents coming to me as well, and, we forget that we were teenagers at some point. And you have parents coming in saying, I can't deal with my teenager. For God's sake, just remember your teenagehood. Why don't you share the stories? And they feel shame. They literally tell me, Sadika, we cannot tell them what we used to do when we were teenagers. But you know how impactful this would be on your teenager at home when you share that you were just like them at a certain stage of your life? Well, when you are a teenager, you really need some guidance. If you really redirect your children to community service again, and I would tell you another thing, sports.
Okay.
Especially team sports. Because this is where teamwork starts, in team sports. If you really guide your kids into these two main activities.
Which is, can you repeat once again?
Service, community service, and sports, and especially team sports. They will gain that spirit at a young age. Servant leadership and teamwork from the beginning. So later on, they will not struggle, nor in the workplace, nor at any level or any stage, nor when they have a family, because they already know the path.
Correct.
Yeah.
And they will have that soft corner for the human out there.
And that soft corner is empathy,
Is
other than
empathy.
empathy. And
Really like it when Dalai Lama once said that the purpose of life is to serve the people. And if you cannot serve, if you cannot help people, then at least do not make them suffer.
yeah,
Put smile on their face.
yes.
It's so nice.
Ye-
Sadika, you mentioned something about grief, you know, anger, stress. In today's generation, people, when they have, you know, a loss of a loved one in their life, let's say, or some heartbreaking situation which happened in anybody's life, people usually go and take the route of, physical training. They consider that physical training or any kind of a gym will help them cope up with that emotional, turbulence which is happening in them. But I personally believe that physical training or gym, especially when you have gone through such kind of a turbulent emotional state, is basically a numbing agent. It numbs those emotions. But even if you are numbing that emotion now, tomorrow, one small trigger and you are back in that emotional state again.
Mhm.
One trigger, small. You are a emotional fitness coach.
Yeah.
How do you channelize people to, just calm their emotional turbulence so that they can have a better life altogether, or they can have a better career altogether future? Tell me about this.
Yeah. You were previously talking about helping people, and you mentioned what the Dalai Lama shared. If you don't help yourself, you can't help others. If you can't lead yourself, you cannot lead others.
Can you repeat that once again? It was amazing.
Okay. So if you can't help yourself, you can't help others. And if you can't lead yourself, you cannot lead others. And it's all about emotions. Because emotions create thoughts, whether positive or negative. They get affected by your emotions. So today, if you wake up with a, I don't know, your mood is not quite good, it's going to affect you the whole day. So your emotions create your thoughts. And then your thoughts create what?
Your actions.
Yes, your actions and your behavior. You'll be behaving and acting accordingly. And then, if you keep on doing this and repeating this cycle, it becomes a habit. And then your habit becomes your destiny. This is why emotions are very important. So how do I handle my emotions? Or how do the first step is to be self-aware. It's self-awareness. This is where it all starts, knowing myself.
No, self-awareness is a very broad word. Can you just
It
help
is.
us understand what does self-awareness means?
Okay. So first of all, I need to know my fears.
Okay.
What scares me? What are the fears that might trigger something from me?
Okay.
An attitude or behavior or a reaction or whatever. So my fears, my weaknesses, my strengths, my triggers as well. I really need to know that. This is why it's very important whenever something happens, any situation happens, I need to have some space. Maybe not immediately on the spot, but later on I need to, first of all, reflect. Why did this happen? Where did this come from? Where did this anger come from?
Okay.
Where did this reaction come from? Because it's not because of the other person, it's because of you. It's not because of the situation, it's because of you. Because it triggered something, it brought something that you've buried a long time ago, it surfaced again all of a sudden. So, and I'm going to explain it biologically and neuroscientifically speaking. I'm a neuroscience coach, by the way, as well. How the brain functions. You remember I told you childhood is the emotional being, is where the emotional being is being molded, if you want.
True.
We are born a blank page. And it's up to the parents, the community, the society, whatever, to mold that being and shape that being. But unfortunately, always this being is shaped in the wrong way.
Irony.
Yeah, I'll explain this a bit later, just to remind me. But this is where all the fears, from 0 to 7, it's a very sensitive age. This is where all the negative emotions, all the fears, all the triggers, everything is, if you want, stored in our subconscious. And the brain, we have the frontal lobe. And there are a tiny gland here in the back that is known as the amygdala. This amygdala is an alarm that God has created in every single human being for us to survive.
Okay.
So whenever I am threatened or my life is threatened, my frontal lobe shuts down completely, there's no logic, and my amygdala takes action. So now if there is a fire happening here in that studio, the first thing I will do is just run away.
True.
In order to stay alive. But people have 3 reactions to a threat, if you want, or danger. Some people will fight. They will be aggressive. They will fight the situation. You might run, take the fire, extinguisher. You might go save lives, put your life under threat just to save others. You might be aggressive in the way you behave to danger.
Yeah.
Or flight, you run away to save your life, or freeze.
Okay.
Some people freeze immediately. So this amygdala is now also functioning whenever I feel threat in any situation I face, whether in the workplace, in society, community, family, whatever. Whenever I feel somebody coming up to me, saying something, and triggers my amygdala, we call it amygdala hijack.
Okay.
My amygdala is hijacked. If you say something now to me that might bring a fear from my childhood, I will react towards you in those 3 manners, depending on my personality. Whether flight, whether fight, whether freeze, and I would do something that I would regret later on. So what happens when the amygdala is hijacked is that your adrenaline, there are 2 glands above your kidneys, they will secrete adrenaline for 18 minutes.
Okay.
And for 18 minutes, you're not aware of what you're doing or saying. People might kill in those 18 minutes. This is how dangerous the amygdala hijack is. To avoid this, I need to create self-awareness. I need to know thyself, Socrates. I need to know myself. I am weak in math. I'll give you my example. I'm very weak in math. I was almost nil. My parents invested in a math tutor, math courses, you name it, and I barely made it because I wasn't created for math.
True.
God did not put that seed inside of me. So everything went there. By raising myself at first, whenever my friends used to tell me, like, they bully. Friends, they tend to bully. They would say, yeah, you're weak in math, you're going to fail your test. It used to affect me. And I used to freeze. I used to retreat. when I heard any bullying or stuff. But later on, when I grew older and I had this awareness, fine, I'm weak in math, and so what? I wasn't created for that. I was created for something different. So now, whenever anyone comes to me and says that, I know, thank you. This is why I brought you on my team. This is why I need you as a financial, as a CFO in my team, because I cannot do math.
True.
So we complete each other. And when you raise your self-awareness, especially leaders, when they raise their self-awareness, they bring the right people on their team to fill in the gap.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
I don't bring you on my team to compete with you or for you to compete with me. I bring you to fill me in.
Because I know where I cannot work, or that's not my area of expertise.
And once human beings all over the place, Vivek, we are unique. I'm going to share this with you. Purpose precedes existence. Our purpose precedes our existence. Meaning God created my purpose, then created Sadika to fulfill it.
Exactly.
He created Vivek, then he created Vivek's purpose, and then he created Vivek to fulfill this purpose.
I believe that.
This is our uniqueness. I mean, I have special seeds that God has planted in me that are different from yours. And if we really focus on completion and not competition, the world would be much calmer, peaceful, quieter. Everything goes smoothly, everything goes easily. I'm here to fill you, to fill in your gap. We're here to work together. We're here to have a better workplace, a better world even. And I cannot do it on my own. I need you. I need a creative person. I need an innovative person. This is what makes leaders different. And the more self-aware of your weaknesses, your fears, your triggers, the better you start understanding yourself, controlling those emotions and managing those emotions. Because let me share something with you, very important. I went through many well-being certifications, from NLP to emotional fitness, to meta coaching, to emotional intelligence, you name it. Okay? There's no healing that happens. If one coach comes to you and tells you, I'm going to heal you, this is a big lie. We don't heal from our traumas, but what happens is that we understand where this trauma came from or where this emotion came from, and once I understand it, and I give it a name, by the way.
Okay.
Many people say I'm angry, but what is behind? Your anger is different from mine. What makes you angry is different from what makes me angry.
True.
What is under the anger? There's another emotion. This is where meta coaching comes in.
Okay.
Sometimes there are 7 layers of emotions under the surface emotion. So you have to go to the root cause for you to understand why this is happening. And once you understand why this is happening, you control it, you manage it, and you're fully in control. This is why I said, if you don't know how to lead yourself, you can't lead others. And to lead yourself, you need to understand your emotions, to understand all your weaknesses, triggers, and then you can manage yourself and you can redirect it into a positive outcome instead of a negative outcome.
That's very powerful. That's a very easiest and simplest way to understand how can you manage your emotions first in order to lead a team later on.
Yes.
Interesting. So, Sadika, tell me, you spoke about emotional fitness. Emotional fitness starts, I believe, with parenting at an early stage.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us, how is it that a wrong parenting can, change the overall mindset of the child, and how is it the right parenting can eventually create a better generation altogether? What has to be done and what should not be done? Give us at least 3 points to that.
Okay, I will share with you. But let me tell you something. parenting is different from one culture to the other. It's different from one family to the other. So it depends also on the belief system, on cultural system, on many things that comes into play. But I would love for parents to be aware that this gift that God has given you is a blank page. And it's already a powerful being, because he has already planted his seeds within that being. And all you need to do is for you to water those seeds, to nurture those seeds, and to help those seeds grow and bear fruit. And then that fruit is given to the world as a gift. Now, if I'm holding a bunch of seeds in my hand, I'm not a farmer. I'm not into agriculture. So I don't know how to differentiate those seeds, okay? So when I plant those seeds, I will know which one is an orange tree or a banana tree or whatsoever tree. Therefore, the identity of a seed lies in the fruit. You give it, this is an orange tree, this is the identity. Same thing for the human being. The identity of a human being lies in his or her purpose. So what happens is when a child is born in a certain family, wherever around the world, you name it,
Yeah.
there's this pre-prepared system that comes in. You have to raise them this way because my culture says 1, 2, 3. I have to raise them this way because my religion says 1, 2, 3. I have whatever, a family, over generations.
Correct.
We are a family of doctors, for example. My son and daughter, they have to be doctors.
True.
But what if they don't have the seeds? What would you do? Unfortunately, the first people who start burying those seeds are the parents if they're not aware. If they will not accept that this child is not them. This child is a being, it's an entity, independent entity from father and mother, from society, from everything. They have their uniqueness, and if you really want to, if you really want to invest in that uniqueness and get the outcome, which would be a very powerful outcome in an added value to communities, society, you name it, even the country, you need to invest in those seeds. So the path is already there. He's going to be a doctor, no matter what. He goes to school, the poor child, he's not good in science, he's not good in math, he's not good in whatever. All the investment goes to the weaknesses.
True, very true.
While maybe this child is very talented in literature, I don't know, in any other subject, and they forget about their strength, where the uniqueness is. So teachers pinpoint and highlight what? Your child is weak in math, your child is weak in biology, your child is weak in literature, you name it. And all the investment goes into that. Why? Because the focus is on the GPA, the focus is on the results, the focus is on the university, the focus is on what the parents want and not what the child wants. And this is why they start losing their purpose. And many children, I know a lot, they commit suicide.
Because of that.
Or they go into
pressure.
drugs. Or they go into any other addiction, like gaming now, like all these, tablets, social media, whatever stuff is happening. It has become an addiction. It's another sort of addiction. And they escape because they don't know who they are. And no one is helping. And this is number one. Focus on who they are, not what you want them to become. There's a huge difference between what you are and who you are. Huge difference. What I am is all these certifications, is all these titles, you name it. that I've earned all the way, all the awards, everything, all the achievements. But who I am, I'm a human being in the making. I'm still on that journey of becoming a human and discovering my humanity, discovering how I can help others and how I can serve others and how I can be an added value. I want to leave a legacy. I don't want to be someone who just passed through. Another thing with the parents, as I mentioned before, 0 to 7 is very sensitive. You know, sometimes we're unaware. What is fear? Some people, when you talk about fear, oh, the fear of scorpions, the fears of snake, the fear of the dark, the fear. No. If you tell your child this simple phrase, Dad will be mad at you. Or Dad will be sad if he knows what you did. This is fear. You've already instilled fear in them. Mommy's going to be sad because you didn't eat your food. It's fear. They don't want to eat, they don't want to eat. Let them decide when they want to eat. I know I'm saying this is how simple it is, but this is how impactful it is on a child.
Isn't it not easy said than done?
It is. But again, when you create awareness, you manage yourself, you control yourself. We're human beings at the end of the day. We have our ups and downs. But most importantly is to learn in order to move on and to admit that we made a mistake. Many people have their ego that comes in the way of admitting whatever damage they've done, and they just move on without them. And this hinders growth, by the way. You don't grow if you don't learn. You keep on repeating your patterns, or you keep on repeating the same patterns, same mistakes, if you don't create awareness. So it's about, I'm going to put it this way, I call it the 4 R's. The first thing that you should do, and I love what John Maxwell calls it, there is no failure. There is what we call falling forward.
Okay. It's a very nice statement.
Yeah. And I want to create an image in your head. When we trip against something, we fall on our faces.
True.
So I'm here, and then I tripped and I fell here. My head hit here. Already I have grown that much.
Very well said.
I fell forward. But what should I do before I stand up? Some people, their ego don't allow them to take that pause. You should first of all reframe your thoughts.
Okay.
This is not failure, this is falling forward, or this is a learning process. And then when you reframe, you reflect. You start reflecting. What happened? Why did this happen? Where did I go wrong? Whatever. And then you redesign. Whether in your workplace, your family, whatever, you redesign the project, you redesign the whole strategy. And then you rehearse again. You put it into practice again. And you will trip again, and you will fall forward again. And this is continuous. This is life's journey, actually. Also to create an image within maybe my audience's head and your head here, Vivek. I compare life to our heartbeats.
Okay.
When I'm alive, my heartbeats on the monitor are going up and down. And this is I'm alive. And when I'm succeeding and then falling again and succeeding, I'm alive. I'm growing. But when I die on the monitor, it's a straight line. So it's up to you to choose. Do you want to live a straight line? No growth? Staying in your comfort zone all your life? So it's up to the human being to learn from their mistakes in order to elevate themselves and elevate others as well. So for the children, we really need to be careful with the words that the words we're using. Again here, as a neuro-linguistic programming practitioner, NLP, it's all about the words we use. So, yes.
Interesting. Sadika, circling back to your previous conversation, we're talking about your book.
Uh-huh.
Your book, which is The Whispers of Silent Women. It is a compilation of stories of the horrible situation the women has gone through. Why did you think that this is needed for the world to be seen? What was the thought?
Okay. So first of all, it's a book of courage. Those stories were shared with me from many women who kept silent for years, decades maybe. And I really wanted to kind of celebrate their courage, and I wrote their truth. I only wrote their truth. So I don't consider this book a book of pain and suffering. It's a book of reality. And most of us, we try to turn the blind eye when it comes to reality, especially when there is suffering and pain. Many people are born into certain circumstances, into certain situations, communities, you name it, and they have no means whatsoever to change their reality.
Okay.
I mean, some of them might break through. I don't want to say 100%. They cannot change. They can.
Okay.
But what if you are a person who was born, this is one of the stories I'm going to share with you. What if you were a person, you were born in a certain community, you were not even registered in the governmental files?
Oh.
You don't exist. You simply don't exist. This is poverty, first of all. They didn't have the means to pay for the official documents that this baby was born and have a birth certificate.
Is this true today as well?
It is. In my country it is. And in many regions of Lebanon. We have this community I'm talking about in particular is under poverty line according to United Nations statistics since 2013. And nothing has been done to help this community. Not by the government, by the people, yes. From the people to the people, I'll tell you, many charitable entities, many NGOs are helping. But when it comes to official documents and official stuff, you cannot do much, you know. So imagine yourself, you don't have an identity. You don't exist. Nobody knows that you were born into this life. No school accepts you. There's no official documents. No one would agree to give you a job. I mean, you're doomed. You are literally doomed. You're either in the streets begging, or unfortunately, most of them, they go towards crime. And unfortunately, some take advantage of them to make them do things that are illegal because they will not be caught, because they don't exist. So they just can't find who they are when they haven't been given the right to exist from the beginning. And those people in particular, or this community, and this is where most of the stories in the book come from that area in Lebanon. And I wanted them to have a voice. Even if it was harsh, even if it was that painful, I wanted them to be heard. And it is a very simple right for a human being to be heard and have a voice. And I wanted it to be an eye-opener for many people who turn the blind eye again, that those people exist.
You gave me a very good perspective today. It's not a book which is sharing the horrible situation. It is a book which shares courage.
Exactly.
So it's a very, very important perspective that you have given me today.
I mean, can you imagine how tough it was for these people to break their silence? It wasn't easy. It took years for them to share their stories.
Correct.
Not a day, not a week, not a month. It took me years.
Correct. It tells that how much effort you would have put across to gain that trust.
Believe me, I didn't put much effort. I just brought the human to connect with those people.
Interesting.
Because, I heard it many times. For example, one of the stories highlights, there are lots of stories on prostitutions, on addiction, on child abuse, you name it. What I heard from my community was like, shame on you. How do you go listen to those people? I also was carrying a pain when I was seeing those people. And I had to fight back for them. Because the most important thing for me was they are human at the end of the day, and we should give them a chance.
Exactly.
And if you give a chance to humans, I mean, you can see wonders happening.
True.
But you just have to open the door. I've heard a lot. I mean, respect your family, respect your community, respect yourself, respect the scarf you're wearing, respect who you are. How do you go and meet such people? It wasn't easy.
So, Sadika, let's move to the rapid fire round questions. And let me ask you quick questions. Whatever comes in your mind first, you just answer me that. All right? A favorite book apart from your own book?
The Alchemist, Paulo Coelho.
Interesting.
Purpose. Your purpose will find you no matter where you go.
What is that social project that you wish to be a part of?
Oh, by the way, I started speaking about that, and hopefully it would materialize at some point, is having an emotional fitness team beyond borders, ready to be sent anywhere in the world where we feel that there is a crisis and people need emotional fitness support.
Interesting. What is the best advice that you have ever received?
Be you, no matter what comes your way. Do not give up on yourself for a position or a title or anything, even for other people. I'm going to go further. Even for your children and family. Don't give up on yourself. Because if you want to add value, whether to your family, your children, your community, your workplace, you name it, it's by being you and not being someone else.
Correct. Tell me, what is it, if given a chance, what is it that you would want to teach the whole world today? Because the whole world is in chaos today. What is it that you would like to teach the whole world if given a chance, if given a mic which will be clear to the whole world?
Well, the first thing that comes to my mind now is transformation begins with me. And keep in mind that change is a ripple effect. And also keep in mind that the only person or the only thing you can change is you. Because you can't change anyone around you. Not your child, not your partner, not your father, not your mother, no one. The only person you are in control of is you. And when you change, people will change. They would come and look at Vivek. Vivek is not angry anymore. What happened to this guy? Because if you show anger all the time, people will come aggressive to you. Because they know you're an angry person. So they would come with this attitude, expecting you to be angry, and all of a sudden they notice, oh my God, what happened? Their behavior will change. And then a ripple effect will start and will begin. So if I really want to impact the world, I have to start. Transformation begins with me and no one else.
What is more difficult, being a social activist or being an author?
Both are difficult. You know why?
Why?
Because you have to bring your truth. Because you have to be vulnerable. When you are a social activist, if you are not human, I'm not a female here. I'm not even a Muslim here. I'm not a Lebanese here. I'm just the human that is presenting herself. And this needs courage. Because if I want to help someone who is not from my faith, or someone who's not from my country, or someone who doesn't believe what I believe, I can't help them if I don't come with my truth of being human. And as an author, I have to speak the truth.
That's so powerful. Sadika, one last question before we fold this. What would be your advice to those people who want to create a better society but don't know where to start with? What is the way that they can start with?
Be you. Be you, again I repeat, to become the human you were created to be.
Interesting. So that was Sadika, and she explained about the journey, the way she has been doing a social cause, and also about being emotionally fit for yourself. Only then you can lead a team, only then you can lead a better life, lead a family altogether. This was one of the episode today, and I believe it was nourishing and enriching for all of you. But this is not the end. We will be having more authors coming in. We will be having their more perspective of life. But stay tuned, because you will always learn something more. And don't forget to like and subscribe this channel, because that gives me motivation to bring in more such authors for you. Until then, you have a wonderful day. Take care of yourself and be happy. Thank you so much.